Let's start. Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Resham, and today I'm going to share one of the chapters from my book, The Not So Stupid Life. Let's get started. The chapter is Why Does Sex Play Such an Important Role in Our Life? From the very early childhood, we start to know something about sex, and generally it is negative because it is still a taboo subject in everybody. Everybody's thinking it is something not to be discussed or talked about openly in the public or in the society or with anyone else, especially in the childhood. And then I have a similar understanding that it should not be talked openly, but it is something that is pinching towards me. What I mean by that is it has some symptoms, some strong symptoms of it, that it is something a part of human. And we live in this strange paradoxical world where this is one of the predominant things that is still running in the world. When you see newspaper, in the television, in the music industry, in the advertisement sector, everywhere it's sex, mini sex. What should I say? Everything is sexualized in some sense because this thing gets so much attention from human. Why? Because it is something that is deeply ingrained in our biological system. And then so the next thing is why this is so predominant in our life, because it's encoded in our DNA to have sex. And what does nature do to us if it is so predominant in our life? It is so necessary from the perspective of evolution or whatever you call that. The nature wants to give this to you as a number one important thing. Then what will it do? What will it associate with it? It will associate pleasure or happiness, or you can also say dopamine regulation on this, and that's the reason why it's so addictive related to these things. So I have shared some other thing that primarily sex is related to with having a baby when you want to have children, but still we are involved in the sex without wanting a baby. It is because we slowly adapt, evolve, and try to understand things better, and we slowly think that maybe I don't want babies, maybe I don't want children in my life. We try to understand or complicate life, whatever you want to say. We try to get evolved in the modern society, and many people starts to believe that they don't need children, they don't want children, but the desire to get connected physically, physical intimacy, is still there, it is still predominant, but sometimes it is too open because the resource is there. There is more resource than any time in the history of the modern civilization. There's a lot of options for people to engage in sex. Literally, you can press a button, you can search on the internet, and you'll find any kind of content you want to engage. And that's the reason why many people are still struggling in some sense of addiction or some sense of sex. Definitely, sex is interlinked with many aspects of life. I don't want to go too deep on this. You all know. Also, like sex is addictive from other perspective as well. For example, as a human, we want some craving, we want some people, we want deep intimacy to each other, which is also, I guess, the reason or it is construct in the process of human evolutions. So the main objective of making this video or writing this chapter is to understand sex, why it is so predominant, why it is so attracting to many people, Definitely, we all know that, but now let's talk about other side. Sometimes, like, people cheat in their marriage. People, like, sex makes people go insane, crazy, mad, in some sense, because there's a fight between the limbic and the prefrontal cortex. We have the prefrontal cortex, but most of the times we are run by the limbic system, the system which is helping us in evolution, which is helping us in survival. And the limbic system is like a master who knows things better, who can analyze things, who can see futures. But for the limbic system, there is no concept of future, there's concept of now and surviving in this now. And that's why there's two states, there's two parts of human. One is driven by the prefrontal, which is really calculative, analytical, but other is like the prefrontal cortex. Sorry, other is like the limbic system, which is like a drunken man, but still necessary. Obviously, sex has become so negative, it does not need to be such negative things. This is also like, if you see things from other perspective, it could be wonderful. It could be that of highly divine thing. Also, I don't want to get too deep into this. I want to introduce other system of, like, there's a tantric system of sex. They don't see sex as shameful, but they see it as a powerful potential to be aware. They see it as the movement of mind. They see and they try to understand themselves in the process of sex. How they do it? They do it by focusing, by being in the present moment, by seeing their breath, by seeing their heartbeat, by seeing themselves shaking, by seeing themselves in the process, in the zone. And that helps them. It sounds simple, but it helps them to connect with themselves. And the last thing is, the key is awareness and conscious. You need to be conscious when the sexual arises, desire arises. You need to be aware. Most of the times we are like a robot. We're just seeing we're not seeing, but we are the chain. We just act. The neurons firing in the brain, it sends the signals to do something, and we do it without being aware. That awareness is lacking in the modern society. And that is what is needed to make sex from seamless to divine. Definitely, sex could be the powerful tools to understand you, your partners, and to know more about yourselves, hence the universe. But without awareness, anything can be destructive. So